Moving on, I want to talk about the muscles of the thorax. Okay, so our lungs lie within our thoracic cavity. We have a variety of muscles that help us to move our rib cage so that we can move air into and out of our lungs. Okay, so we have, don't worry about the names, but we have some muscles up here that are kind of holding the top of the rib cage. We have muscles on the like outside of the rib cage. We have some muscles on the inside of the rib cage. And then also at the bottom of the thoracic cavity, we've got the diaphragm, which like, so this figure, the way this figure works is you're looking through the ribs and you can see the diaphragm in there. So the diaphragm is like at the bottom of, kind of at the bottom of your rib cage. Okay. We have different sets of muscles that we use for breathing in and breathing out. Okay, so these are our inspiratory muscles, our muscles for breathing in. And these are our expiratory muscles, the muscles that we use for breathing out. And I guess I should also mention, we also use our abdominal muscles for breathing out sometimes. I also just want to point out that this is, this is not anatomically accurate. Like you have both sets of muscles on both sides of your body. Okay. Finally, I just want to, or finally for this slide, I want to point out that these are skeletal muscles, which means that they are under voluntary control. So we're going to do a little exercise right now. Take a breath in and hold your breath. Okay, you can go ahead and release it. All right, so the reason you were able to do that is because the inspiratory and expiratory muscles, our respiratory muscles, are skeletal muscles that are under voluntary control. You were able to have control over your breathing there. Okay, so it's kind of hard sometimes to remember that the respiratory muscles are skeletal muscles because you do it so automatically, but it is under voluntary control. Okay, last topic that I want to talk about in terms of the structure, the anatomy of the respiratory system is I want to introduce you to the pleural sacs, also known as pleura. Okay, so the pleura are these fluid-filled double membranes that surround the lungs. So if you look at this figure on the left, what you're looking at is like if you were lying down and if you were a magician's assistant and the magician like was cutting you in half and they actually cut you in half instead of doing some trick, that this is kind of what you would see. Okay, so it's just kind of through the body like this. Okay, so what you can see, you have the right lung, the left lung. The pleural sacs are these sacs that you can see in kind of this dark blue outside of each lung. Okay, and they're basically a sac. So they have one membrane. So looking at the left lung, you have one membrane that adheres to the outside of the lung. And then the other membrane adheres to the ribs. Okay. And so, and they're fluid filled. Did I say that? They're fluid filled. Okay. So the pleural sacs have a couple main functions. One is lubrication, right? So as you breathe, you don't want your lung tissue to get damaged as it comes up against the ribs. And so you have this sort of extra layer of fluid to help prevent that from happening. So basically very much like the pericardium around the heart, which incidentally you can see in this figure also. So around the heart, you see this dark blue, that's the pericardium. Okay. Also, another main function of the pleural sacs is to hold the lung against the thoracic wall. So this is kind of like, it's basically via like hydrogen bonding. You can think of it as, if you have two glass plates and you put them next to each other, they kind of like stick together. It's hard to pull them apart. That's what you're doing here with the pleural membranes. You're like kind of holding the lung against the rib cage using the magic of hydrogen bonding, okay? I also just wanna point out that we have this cartoon that basically shows the same thing. So we have the lung here, and then we have our pleural sac around it, okay? Last thing I want to say about the pleural sacs have a subatmospheric pressure in them. So the pressure in the pleural sacs is below atmospheric pressure, and that helps the lungs to stay inflated. Don't worry too much about what that means. We will go over this in greater detail later.